All right, everyone, it's Joker Francis, and this is the Think Podcast. So today is just going to be a little bit opinionated thoughts, and I'll make sure that I put some of the snippets and some of the clips on my social media platform. So if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't followed, please make sure you do just that. So I have someone, a friend, close by, and we're talking about the topic, just something very simple. And what we're talking about is the idea that Robert Greene, in his book Mastery, he cited something. He said that the need for certainty is the greatest disease that the mind faces. So we're going to talk about it. No one is speaking for or against. We're just giving our opinions and our thoughts on what we think on that topic. So Hussein, what do you think about it?
Okay, so thank you very much. Talking about certainty is different from affection. So rather than me saying certainty is the greatest disease to the mind, I would say maybe we could have said perfection, because certainty is something that, in another word, when you put certainty on the long run, you would say, instead of calling it certainty on the long run, you can just say that it is vision. So
what do you exactly mean by that?
So what I exactly mean by that is, if we do anything, we already know what we want to do in our mind. For example, even from our Creator, God, He knew then that this is what He wanted to do. He wanted to create the world, wanted to create human being, and everything He envisioned in His mind, He created. So there was a certainty of, this is what I want. This is what I want. Now, Adibin, our God is a God who, is a perfect God, but doesn't work on perfection. Let me say that.
What do you mean by try to explain a simple idea of what that statement means? Okay,
so God is a perfect God, but doesn't work with perfection. Let me say is like He creates things out of flame, because He is God. Whatever He does is right. James, whatever He does is right. So when He says, let there be light, He didn't say, this light, this sun, why is it circle? Okay, let me try to make it perfect. Let me put it triangle. So maybe the people I create, the people that I will create, maybe if they don't like the circle, or so Adivin God was acting like that. That means God is somebody who is driven by perfection, but He has certainty in His mind. I want light. So from this example, you would just know that there's a difference between perfection and certainty. So certainty is that, like I said, is like what you've envisioned. Why perfection is something that you've not even created it. You are just having this mind-boggling stuff, like you have this unrest about something that you want to create, and you've not yet created that stuff. So that's what I mean by God is God is the perfect God, but doesn't work with perfection. So going back.
Okay. That is a mouthful for, a lot of the people listening to this. But let's just break this thing down to something that is very simple and very easy to understand. From what you have said so far, I would say that you're against that notion. You're against that idea.
Yes.
Now, by the way, to the people listening, we are picking up the idea as a generalized context. We are not refining it based on the context that Robert Greene talked about in his book. We know that the perspective of Robert Greene from his book might be different, might be completely diametric from what we're discussing. So we don't really care about his perspective. We are just discussing the idea. Generally, the need for certainty is the greatest disease that the mind faces, the human mind. Now, the God kind of mind, based on your comparison, cannot be compared with the human mind. The human mind is completely different. The human mind has family to think about. The human mind has people to think about, has paycheck, has job, lots of things to think about. But say, for example, obviously you are against that idea. But say, for example, an example that is in line with you being against it. An engineer, for example, is constructing a house, and there are some things he has to be certain for in order to be sure that the integrity of that building is safe for the people that will live in it. Make a disparity or make a comparison, juxtaposition between an engineer and an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur with his ideas, he has to keep moving. He has to keep on moving forward. He has to keep on doing things. So what is the juxtaposition between the case of an engineer and the case of an entrepreneur? Because there are some entrepreneurs that the need for certainty has limited them from taking action. The need for certainty has prevented them from moving forward, from doing the things that they should have done, from going to places that they should have gone to because they needed to be. Even some engineers, I would say, I don't have data to confirm that, but I believe some engineers, some engineering projects, even some chemical projects in some industries, they had to be certain of if this drug is actually going to do its work. So that need for certainty, whether it involves the lives of people or it doesn't involve the lives of people, what is the common thread that we can find between the different world of people concerning certainty and it being a limiting factor for the human mind?
Okay, so first of all, let me answer the juxtaposition between an entrepreneur and an engineer. You know, one is fixed, while one is dynamic. Like I said before, the end goal is vision. Now, one is like a noun and one is like a verb. So the engineering aspect is like a noun. It's just a thing. It's just something that is fixed. Do you understand? So it's something that, yes, in fact, because of the need of certainty, that's why they have blueprints. That's why you have to meet an architect to, draw whatever you want. So when you start building, you know that this is what I'm looking for. Now, here's the verb part of certainty, is that the process of you doing it. The process of you doing it. So you see different engineers, they have different approach of doing things. I don't know, but the end goal is that they are certain that this particular structure is what we want to create. But the process of them getting to that place could be different. So an entrepreneur now have in mind that he wants 1 million users. So how would he get there could be different. Do you understand? So Robert Greene's opinion of certainty is perfection. So instead of him using the word certainty, he could have used perfection. So perfection is really the limiting factor and not certainty. Because if a person fails, using the experience of that failure, the person could still, up his or her game to, get that particular thing the person wants. But if the person is looking for perfection, then that person can't even move because the person will not be ready to execute, because after preparing one particular thing, for him to execute, he will be afraid of failure. So he'll be like, this is not good yet. This is not good enough. This is not good enough. So that's just...
So the need for perfection, I believe it's true. For certainty, I believe it's true. And I would give a very simple example of some of the things that I have seen in our world that is limiting people because they are trying their best to be certain about the metrics, to be certain about the results. And it's the factor that is limiting them. Let's say, for example, the human mind is limited. The human mind is limited in lots of entireties. We cannot put it in comparison with that of a deity like God. The human mind is limited. And some of the problems that we face are problems that have to do with making complex calculations in our mind. Though there are some of us that are gifted in doing that, but making complex calculations in our mind, trying to put things together to make sure that everything is all set before we can launch is the challenge that we do find. And I believe it's why lots of minds are actually... No, I stopped.
Why?
Trying to think. But standing for the idea, what example do you think we could find?
Okay, so standing for certainty that
is actually a disease to the human mind.
So Robert Greene, in a different aspect, in the sense that why certainty could be dangerous is if your end goal is not clear. If it is not clear, then why are you even thinking of certainty? Okay, let's take, for example, some startups. Let's take Facebook, for example. We knew what he wanted to do. He just wanted to, create a platform where an online community where him and his student, like him and his fellow students would talk about assignment and all of that and chat. And that was his vision. Until when he got to that particular place, he expanded it. You understand? So, but Adi being, remember, I'm standing for it now being one of the greatest disaster. Okay, so Adi being, he had in mind that Facebook, that he had in mind already on the onset that he wants Facebook to be used by everybody in the world, like almost everybody in the world. And then at the beginning of the creation of Facebook, it ended up that only his classmates were using it. It would.
Let me let me say
Okay.
something. While you were speaking, something popped up in my mind. I could remember there are some threads, there are some notes that are connected now. I could remember the points where I came up with a quote concerning the points that when a man has knowledge, knowledge can prevent him from taking action. When a man has understanding, for example, someone wants to get into building a house and he understands that building this house will take me, I'm an expert at this. I've read books, I've consulted with some professionals, some experts, some other experts. I've done my research, I've done my homework, and I found out that it will take me 10 million naira to build this house. And then when I look at my pockets, when I look at my bank account, I find out I only have 200,000 naira. The rational thoughts that will come to my mind when I say I want to build this house is to think that it is impossible. Most especially when I give myself a deadline to say I have to build this house in a year time. The job I have, I don't make, what I make in a year is probably 1 million naira. That's all I make in a year. And what I have in my pocket is just 200,000 naira. Now, that's, if I say I want to put everything together to build this house, that need, that understand, that knowledge that I have, that the requirement to get this job done will actually take this much. But what I have is this much. It's a limiting factor that prevents people from taking action. Prevents people from saying, okay, let's just start. Along the way, things will come, resources will come. So it's a limiting factor. So while you were saying something came to my mind, a topic that you said when they don't have the end goal in mind. Now, I think it should be the reverse. Personal opinion, I think. It should be when they have the end goal in mind. They have seen the end goal. They have visualized it. They have an understanding of it. They have grasped it so clean, so clear
That
this is what I want. But they look at the resources they have. They look at the tools that they have. They look at the materials that they have.
knowledge and all of
And then they said, okay, we have to make sure that all of these things are so together set in place to meet that vision. But rationally speaking, the current resources do not meet what is necessary to get us to that vision. So that need to be certain that I have everything in place to get to that place can be a limiting factor. Can be a disease that's of the mind. Some people get depressed to say I can't really do it. For example, the scenario that we're currently in, we have watched lots of YouTube videos. We have seen some of the professionals doing YouTube and podcast or whatever the case might be. We've seen some of the gear they have, their setup, their lighting, their foreground, their background, everything looks cool. And we want to get into this industry. We want to get into this world. And we think we have an understanding of all of the fact. We have read articles about photography, about videography, and we don't even have a professional camera. We have a mic, but we don't even have, let's say we don't have some of the professional things that are involved when it comes to creating something of at par. But the vision we have is that this is where we are going to. So that limiting factor of, it's so rational, it's so easy for us to say, it's not possible. It's not possible to do this. But that is setting us in a place of neglecting the place of things like serendipity, time and chance, opportunity, and things like that. But do people really rely on those things as subject to keep on moving? What's the percentage of human beings? Because if people really do rely on that, we wouldn't have a large percentage of people that give up. Just minutes ago, hours ago, we were thinking of dropping this thing, because that's the height of when you have so much knowledge about where you're going to. And then you take some steps back to see what are the materials that I have that can take me there. But to the best of your knowledge, the materials that you have don't even reach anything to take you. So in that state, personally speaking, what would you do? Or what would you advise people to do? Or have you been in that condition? Obviously, we have. All right, so let's continue.
Okay, so I was about to give an advice about what you would do if you find yourself in this condition of certainty and uncertainty, so like when you have that perfect knowledge of what you want and what you want to do, for sure you would have obstructions, you would have different kind of stuff that would want to impoverish your strategy or whatever means that you've put in place to attain that goal. But one thing that I think we should do is to be dogged. We should have the goal, that certainty part in our hand, and say yes, this is, in fact, when we are not meeting it, that is when I think we should also, like, we should push for it, because we should not just say probably we are not meeting this stuff, let's just dump it. So rather than dumping it, I think we should still hold it and look at it very well and say, okay, every time we have in our mind to drop that particular project, we should still hold firm to that project. And that project, maybe if you don't have the prototype yet, if it is on paper, just hold it and keep on building that stuff. When you keep on looking at it, the more the more it would be in your consciousness, and you won't even know. You may be talking to somebody and then it will just flash. It was Kule here that was saying that we stumble upon an idea that nobody is really a genius. So whenever you've had any hardship on going on with your project or going on with anything, what I would just say is not to drop it, because if you drop it, you find yourself back in square one, and it will be easy for you to drop another one. You understand? And that's how it is until that person will find out that he's 50 and he has not done anything. And those are the kind of people that kills the morale of young people coming up, because they will be bragging that I have this so idea, but I have this so idea. They will only be talking about it, but they don't have anything physically. But when you are dogged like that, you find out that it will surely it will come. It will come, seriously. It will come.
All right, so you were speaking of the aspect of doggedness. We understand the traits. Let's take into account the traits of human beings. The traits of human beings are not the same. Nobody has not everybody has the energy of Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Not everybody has the wit and the enthusiasm of Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
Not everybody has, people are different. And a team, I believe, to the best of my knowledge, the role of a team is to have this variety of people with different species and their personality. So when it's almost like it's you and
somebody to...
Yes, your trait is not the dogged trait.
Yeah. Okay.
How do you maintain energy? Because I think this thing has to do with energy. To keep on moving, it requires energy. There has to be something inspiring you. And having a vision alone really doesn't inspire. It doesn't inspire as much as seeing results. It doesn't inspire as much as moving forward. It doesn't inspire as much as, some people, I think that was Zig Ziglar that said, they say motivation doesn't last. That's why it's recommended daily. Motivation doesn't last as that much, but you need something inside of you, more like a fire that is pushing you and pulling you to the destination. Now, that is a trait that not every human being has. But if we want to increase the ratio of the successes that we have in our world, in Nigeria, for example, based on what we envision for Nigeria and the economical affluence that we envision for Nigeria, we don't need people to give up on their dreams. So what exactly do you think would be an ingredient to make sure that whatever the traits you are from, you could actually maintain that energy that will keep on, help you keep on moving forward?
Okay, so one thing that I would say is, depending on your personality, one thing that would keep you is keep on going for the thing that you want to do. For example, is not this one now is not about being dogged. You understand? So doggedness is just another word for resilience. So even when you are seeing, not everybody have not everybody has that, that mind to welcome failure and still rise up back. But what I mean by going for that knowledge is just, for example, I watched a video about a guy who wanted to create an app. I think an app that would kind of help the way they assimilate their lectures and all of that. And the guy didn't have any knowledge at all. And that guy is not a choleric. He's not somebody that is not somebody that have this leadership kind of, that you see that this guy, every leader is resilient. So somebody must. So, but this guy, what he did was that he went to, YouTube. He searched, how can I build an app? You understand? How can I build an app? And he went, he checked, they showed him how to build the app. He was just implementing all of that. He was implementing. So what am I driving to? Going for the knowledge, be streamlining it. One of the things that also pull us down is if we just want to do everything, encompass, like overwhelm our mind with, how will I put it, with everything that we want to achieve. We are just saying it. But when we start gradually going for the knowledge, and on your way of getting that knowledge, it's like, it is nature. It's a law of nature. You would actually see people, you will attract people. You understand? So is it that you share it with people, and you would eventually see somebody that have this the same ego or the same drive as you have. So going for that knowledge, pursuing that knowledge, streamlining it, building it step by step. Doesn't matter your traits. Bill Gates, his traits is different from Bill Gates. Is a quiet person. His traits is different from the owner of I think Virgin. When you see that one, you know that this one is somebody that is Richard Branson. It's somebody that is an extrovert. Why Bill Gates is an introvert? Bill Gates is quiet, yet he did Microsoft. How did he do it? So he went for the knowledge, even when he's not a graduate. Understand? So, but Richard Branson, so probably he doesn't have the knowledge. He doesn't have the knowledge, or he's not an introvert. But because of that is extrovert nature, those kind of people, they can easily influence others to work for them. You understand? So they can influence others to work for them. But people like Bill Gates, it is after himself, he has, built something quietly without letting anybody know. You find that people of his own nature attract people by what they have created. But people with that extroverted nature kind of attracts people with maybe having the vision in mind, but they've not really done it. You understand? So they would actually go and meet other people that they see that, okay, these people kind of have idea, or they have the same drive. So they come together and they build. So you would see that people like Bill Gates, they are really the ones that are really dogged, but in a silent way. So, but one of the ways is that knowledge that they keep on chasing. That knowledge that they keep on chasing. So that's just.
All right. One last. I wouldn't take this as a question. I don't think it is a question per se. But one last thing I would like to say is, you keep mentioning knowledge, and then before that you mentioned ignorance. There was a name of somebody. Take note of the person you mentioned. He said he was ignorant. If he was even ignorant about what he wanted to do, but he was able to do it. And then you spoke of knowledge. So based on the topic that the understanding and the vision of certainty, and the understanding that you have of the vision that you have might be a limiting factor to you. I remember a conclusion that I made a certain time while I was thinking about it. The conclusion was to feign ignorance. That means to behave as if you are ignorant of something. To act like it is not there. To just think of, it's like you have watched a movie before, and then you went to a cinema with someone else. You had to go to the cinema, and then the person tells you it's this movie. Have you seen it before? I say, I have, but with the person, okay, you won't enjoy the movie. You say, don't worry, I have restructured myself to know how to teach myself to behave as if I don't know something, and so I can receive more and absorb more. It's like, for example, reading the Bible. You must have read it
Yes.
through before, but just tell yourself,
again.
I've not read this thing before. I've not listened to this message before.
Yeah.
I've not read this article before. So you can gain something before. So that feigning ignorance of, I know that this is my vision, but this is the tool that I have. I will just ignore my vision. I will just ignore the fact that these are the tools that I really need
Yeah.
to be in this world to actually get this. And then you make use of what you have. So guys, don't forget the topic of this. I know we deviated a little. We in fact deviated a lot, but this has been a very intriguing conversation. Don't forget the topic was that the need for certainty is the greatest disease that the mind faces. The mind faces. So the need for certainty was actually an attack to the mind. It was the mind that it was going for. And you know, the heart of the man is actually the central part of every area of his life. If whatever it is can attack your heart, then it can change your behavior. In fact, changing the behavior of a man is just a matter of how you could find something that could target his heart. Because you can target his heart, you can change his behavior, you can alter his perceptions, alter his understanding. And once you can alter the perception and understanding of the man, you can completely change his behavior. So that was the attack, to change the behavior for you to give up, for you to say, I'm packing my bags and going back home, for you to say, I'm giving in to this defeat, whatever the case might be, the need for that certainty. So if you see it come, be conscious of it, be conscious of what it's trying to attack, so it can be, it can be foolproof for something like this. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much, Hussein, also for coming to the show. So this has been really intriguing. This has been really nice. If you haven't subscribed, if you haven't followed the channel, or if you haven't followed our podcast, this is the Think Podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Francis, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.